firing. She's driving for the line, and she's done it! 47.80. No
What if the
woman!
thing holding you back from greatness isn't your body, but your mind? Two Olympic champions just proved that mental toughness beats pure talent every single time. Sydney McLaughlin-Levrone stands in the starting blocks at the Tokyo Olympics. She's the American record holder, but not the world record holder. That title belongs to Dalilah Muhammad, who's standing right next to her in lane 7. The gun goes off. Both women cross the finish line having broken the world record, but Sydney's time is faster, 51.46 seconds. She finally has her gold medal. Here's what makes this moment incredible. 5 years earlier, this same athlete was a terrified 16-year-old at the Rio Olympics who gave up mid-race because fear took over completely. So what changed? Not her speed, not her technique, her mind. Sydney grew up loving to run. Her parents both ran track, but they never pushed her. She just enjoyed it naturally. Then she started competing, and something dark crept in, a desperate need to win. When she was only 7 years old, she told her dad on the way to a race that she was terrified of losing. Her dad stayed calm and said, "If that happens, we'll get some food and go home." Simple as that. But those words didn't stick. The more races Sydney won, the more fear grew inside her. Every victory made the next race scarier. What if I don't win next time? That question haunted her. By junior year of high school, Sydney was running so fast that she made it to the Olympic trials. She was 16 years old, standing in Eugene, Oregon, surrounded by confident professional women with planned-out race strategies. She felt like a timid little girl who didn't deserve to be there. The fear was so bad that she called her dad and begged him to let her quit. He told her she was already there, so just get the experience. At the starting line, her competitive instinct kicked in. She won her heat, then the next one. In the final, she grabbed third place and the last spot on Team USA heading to Rio. But instead of joy, she felt panic. Sydney had dreamed about the Olympics since she was 8 years old, watching American women win gold on TV. Now that dream was real, and all she could think about was losing. At the Rio semifinals, the pressure crushed her. There was talk of an American sweep, 3 American women, all expected to dominate. The weight of those expectations was suffocating. Halfway through her race, something broke. Her will to win just left. Instead of her normal surge at the end, she slowed down. Her Olympics were over. Fear had won. It stole one of the greatest seasons of her life. Fear whispered to her that if she couldn't be perfect, why even try? But here's what Sydney learned later. She was looking at the wrong thing. She defined herself completely by her wins and losses. Nothing else about her mattered if she wasn't winning. Her entire identity was tied to being the fastest. After Rio, things got worse before they got better. In fall of 2018, Sydney moved to Los Angeles to start her professional career. The 400-meter hurdles is one of the most brutal events in track. You need technique, endurance, and pure speed all at once. Her first year as a pro, she missed too many training days. She wasn't disciplined. She struggled clearing hurdles. At Nationals, Dalilah Muhammad destroyed her and broke the world record doing it, and Sydney's anxiety went through the roof. At the 2019 World Championships in Qatar, she stuttered on the 8th hurdle but still finished with the 3rd fastest time in history. Dalilah ran even faster, breaking her own world record again. Sydney found her dad in the tunnel under the stadium and just sobbed. She was ashamed because she knew she hadn't prepared right. Then, her personal life fell apart too. She tried getting back together with an old boyfriend, thinking that would make her happy. He wasn't interested at all. She felt completely worthless. That's when something clicked. Sydney thought to herself that the only way she would heal was with God. Her parents had raised her in church, but she'd been avoiding God. She had this idea that he was harsh and would demand she give up everything she loved, including running. But her soul was searching for something bigger. She started going to church again. She studied the Bible. One verse hit different. It talked about wisdom being like honey. You can take bitter experiences and find the sweetness in them. Setbacks don't destroy you when you know there's a bigger plan for your future. Sydney's whole approach changed. She met Andre Levrone Jr. through friends in Los Angeles. He's a former NFL player. As their relationship grew, so did her faith. When they got engaged in August 2021, Sydney was already running for a completely different reason. Not for herself, for God. She stopped trying to control everything. She took each day as it came. That doesn't mean she worked less hard. It means she knew she'd done her best and trusted the outcome. Andre helped ground her. When anxious thoughts tried creeping back in, he pulled her back to reality. Together, they committed their relationship to the Lord every single day. This is the Sydney who showed up in Tokyo, not the scared 16-year-old from Rio. She was freed from being defined by running. When fear controls your training, only winning brings relief. But that relief is temporary because fear keeps chasing you. Now Sydney runs for something bigger. Victory over the fear of failure gave her true freedom. It let her jump those hurdles with actual joy. Now let's talk about someone who took a completely different path to mental dominance. Mondo Duplantis. The Swedish-American pole vaulter is doing things nobody has ever seen before. He's the Olympic champion, world champion, European champion. He holds every major title and keeps breaking world records.
Yeah, the crowd are on their feet. They're roaring him on. Is it his 4th world record of the year? Yeah! Oh, yes!
Scott Simpson used to pole vault internationally and now coaches Olympic athletes. He studied Mondo's technique closely and found 3 things that separate him from everyone else. First, his speed is almost unprecedented. The speed Mondo generates at takeoff is higher than anyone else in history. That matters because pole vault is an energy storage game. You store energy in the pole as it bends. More energy stored means more energy returned to launch you higher. But here's the crazy part. Usually athletes with great speed have poor technique on the pole, or athletes with great technique are slower. Mondo has both. He puts massive speed through takeoff while maintaining incredible technique at those high speeds. That combination is unique to him. Second, his consistency is remarkable. Wind, rain, high pressure, competitive environment, jumping alone, doesn't matter. Mondo produces the same incredible output every single time. He built a huge toolbox by doing pole vault from such a young age. That toolbox lets him perform consistently no matter what's happening around him. Third, his competitive mindset is unbreakable. Mondo's parents talk about his competitiveness from when he was little. Growing up with 2 brothers and a sister, he had to compete for everything. But here's a wild detail. His parents had to drag him off YouTube at midnight because he was watching pole vault videos. That's not normal dedication. That's obsession. When Mondo doesn't perform as well as he wants, you can see the frustration on his face. That fire burns constantly. Simpson says this creates a mindset that's incredibly difficult to beat. But Mondo also loves the pressure. He's a showman. Not as flashy as Usain Bolt was, but Mondo absolutely loves being on that stage. He's often the last athlete competing with all eyes on him. That brings out his best. After breaking world records, he's jumped over cameramen and done spontaneous front flips on the track. His personality embraces the attention. So here's what these 2 champions teach us. Sydney found freedom by changing what defined her. She stopped running from fear and started running towards something bigger than herself. Mondo found dominance through obsessive preparation and trusting his process under pressure.
Yes, the 2 champions over 200 meters, but Lyles is never to be denied his shining moment. He has the last word.
Something big just happened in American track and field. For the first time in years, the United States relay teams are actually working the way they should, and Noah Lyles, Sha'Carri Richardson, and Sydney McLaughlin-Levrone are right in the middle of it all. Let me explain what's going on. The U.S. track team just won 4 out of 5 gold medals at the World Championships in Tokyo. That might not sound like a huge deal, but it is. The American relay teams have been a mess for 20 years, but now something has changed, and it's all leading up to the 2028 Olympics in Los Angeles. Here's what makes this special. Both the men's and women's 4x100 relay teams won gold at the same big competition. This has only happened one other time in the past 10 years. The stars who helped make it happen? Sha'Carri Richardson, Noah Lyles, and Sydney McLaughlin-Levrone all ran anchor legs and brought home gold. But winning these races is just part of the story. What really matters is how they fixed a broken system. Robert Chapman works as the Chief of High Performance Operations for USA Track and Field. He asked a really important question. We always have great talent, but do we have the culture in place to allow the talent to achieve what they're capable of? His answer after Tokyo was clear. He said, "I feel we took a solid positive step to nailing that process and getting that established." So what changed? Everything, actually. Before this year, picking who runs on the relay teams was a total disaster. At last year's Olympics, 8 different people had a say in who made the team. 8 people. All of them had their own opinions. All of them had their own favorites, and nobody could agree on anything. Chapman said, "There's always been involvement by a high-performance committee, and we've had contractor coaches making decisions. It wasn't exactly straightforward. We tried to reorganize and restructure how we do relays. For 2025, they cut that list down to just 2 people. Wallace Spearman, a former U.S. sprinter, and Amy Begley, a distance runner. That's it. 2 general managers who make the decisions, and everyone else stays out of it." This simple change did something amazing. It let the coaches focus on what actually matters. Chapman said it keeps coaches out of politics about team makeup and allows them to focus on fundamentals of what really matters, like passing the baton. Now here's where things get interesting. The old way of doing things wasn't just messy. It was costing America medals. The men's 4x100 relay team went 20 years without winning an Olympic medal. 20 years. They finished second in 2012, but that medal got taken away because of a doping violation. Since 1995, bad baton passes have cost the U.S. men in 7 world championships and 6 Olympics. That's 13 times they messed up when they had the fastest runners in the world. Carl Lewis knows this better than anyone. He won 2 Olympic relay gold medals for America. Before last year's failure, he told the Associated Press exactly what the problem was. He said, "The issue has always been politics, has always been drama, has always been deception. If they can eliminate those things, there's no question they have the fastest team in the world." Well, Tokyo proved Carl Lewis was right. On a rainy final night in Tokyo, the United States won 3 out of 4 relay races. The only loss came in the men's 4x400 relay against Botswana. And honestly, that race was incredible to watch. Botswana is becoming a real force in sprinting. They had Colin Kebenat-Shipi, who just won the 400-meter world title. They also had Letsile Tebogo, the Olympic 200-meter champion. Rai Benjamin ran anchor for Team USA and got the baton with a small lead. But Kebenat-Shipi caught him right at the end and won by just 0.07 seconds. It was Botswana's first relay win, and they earned it. But let's talk about the wins. The women's 4x100 team has now won 4 straight gold medals at major competitions. The first one was an upset over Jamaica back in 2022. Jamaica had their own baton problems that day. The last 3 wins have all had Sha'Carri Richardson running the anchor leg. And here's something really interesting. This year, Richardson was actually struggling during the season. Melissa Jefferson-Wooden won gold in both the 100 and 200 meters. But the team stuck with Richardson on anchor anyway. Why? Because they had a plan and they trusted it. Wallace Spearman explained the new system. He said, "We sent out depth charts so people knew exactly where they would run. We made sure athletes weren't competing for a spot in the final. We said, this is the order. This is your job. You handle your job. And if you don't like your job, then don't get on the plane." No drama, no politics, just clear roles and clear expectations. Spearman called it a culture change that created the least amount of drama he's seen since he started working with the sprint program in the mid-2000s. The men's 4x100 team also came through. They've now won at the last 2 world championships, though they did mess up at the Olympics last year. In Tokyo, they got a bit lucky because Jamaica had problems in qualifying. The Jamaican team had Oblique Seville and Kashane Thompson, who won gold and silver in the 100 meters. But Jamaica didn't make it to the finals. Noah Lyles was pretty chill about the whole thing. Noah said, "I didn't have to do much. These guys took care of business. They made sure the handoffs were clean." It's a little anticlimactic, but at the same time, it's a great feeling because you know that the job has been done. Then there's Sydney McLaughlin-Levrone. She's on a completely different level right now. In the women's 4x400 relay, McLaughlin-Levrone got the baton from Aaliyah Butler with a huge lead. Then she made it even bigger. The American team finished in 3 minutes and 16.61 seconds. That's a championships record. They beat Jamaica by more than 2.5 seconds. 2 nights before that race, McLaughlin-Levrone ran the 400 meters flat in 47.78 seconds. She became the first woman to break 48 seconds in almost 40 years. So of course everyone started asking about world records again. The world record in the women's 4x400 relay is 3 minutes 15.17 seconds. The Soviet Union set it back in 1988. That's ancient in track terms. McLaughlin-Levrone said, "We're getting closer and closer. It's going to come eventually, and it's just about the right situation, but tonight we're happy to walk away with a gold medal." Now here comes the big question. Is this success real, or will it fall apart again? Relays are tricky. Even with all these wins, the U.S. team has missed out on gold in 17 out of 41 major relays since 2015. That's a lot of disappointment for a team that has more talent than anyone else. But Robert Chapman isn't worried about short-term results. He's thinking about the 2028 Olympics in Los Angeles. Outcomes matter. But at the beginning of the quad, we wanted to focus on the process. If we nailed the process and dropped the stick or got beat, then I'm okay with that. But if we win and have a messed up process, then we're not making progress on what we need to do for 2028. And speaking of 2028, this is where things get really exciting. The Olympics just announced a brand new event. The 4x100 mixed relay is coming to the Los Angeles Games, men and women running together on the same team. This has fans around the world pumped up because we're going to see combinations that were never possible before. Think about Team USA for a second. Noah Lyles won gold in the 100 meters in Paris. He's a 3-time Olympic medalist and has been on the podium at World Championships 7 times. Sha'Carri Richardson won silver in Paris and is the reigning world champion. Now they could run on the same relay team together. Add Fred Kerley, who won the World Championship in 2022. Add Gabby Thomas, who has 3 Olympic gold medals. This is the kind of dream team nobody could have imagined before. For Team USA, everything is lining up perfectly. They fixed their broken system. They're winning again. They have the best athletes in the world, and they'll be competing at home in Los Angeles with 6 relay gold medals up for grabs instead of 4. Now, the question isn't whether America can win. The question is whether they can dominate like never before. Quincy Wilson is breaking world records and making professional athletes look slow. This is the story of how a high school student became the fastest teenager in history. Let's start at the beginning. Quincy Wilson comes from Potomac, Maryland. He's just a regular kid who goes to Bullis School. But when he steps on the track, he turns into something completely different. His parents, Monique and Roy, noticed their son was special early on. When Quincy was just 8 years old, they moved their entire family from Virginia to Maryland. Why? So Quincy could train at the best school possible. That's how much they believed in him. And they were right to believe. When Quincy was only 14 years old, he broke a record that had stood for 30 years. Think about that. A record older than most of his teachers had been teaching. He was just getting started. Fast forward to 2024. Quincy is now 16 years old and still in high school, but he's not running against other high schoolers anymore. He wants to compete at the Olympics. In January 2024, Quincy started showing everyone what he could do. He ran the 500 meters in 1 minute and 1.27 seconds. That was the second fastest time ever by a high school student. He missed the record by just 0.02 seconds. That's like blinking your eyes. But here's where it gets crazy. In March 2024, Quincy went to Boston for the New Balance Nationals Indoor Championship. This is one of the biggest high school track meets in the country. He won the 400 meters with a time of 45.76 seconds. That time wasn't just good, it was record-breaking. It was so fast that if Quincy had run in the World Indoor Championships that year, he would have finished 4th. Let that sink in. A high school kid competing against the best adults in the world and finishing 4th. Then came April and the famous Penn Relays in Philadelphia. This is where things got really interesting. Quincy was running the relay with his teammates from Bullis School. During the race, one of his teammates got tripped and had to chase down the baton. They were way behind. Quincy got the baton for the last leg. He ran so fast that he almost made up the entire gap. His split time was 44.37 seconds. That became the fastest high school 400-meter split ever recorded at Penn Relays. Ever. But Quincy wasn't done yet. He had his eyes on something bigger. The U.S. Olympic Trials. June 2024 arrived. Quincy showed up at the Olympic Trials as a 16-year-old kid competing against grown men, professional athletes who train for a living, Olympic champions, world record holders. In his first race, the preliminaries, Quincy ran 44.66 seconds. That broke the under-18 world record. a record that had stood for 42 years. Just like that, gone. 2 days later in the semifinals, Quincy did it again. He ran even faster, 44.59 seconds. Another world record. In just 2 days, he broke the same record twice. Now, here's what makes this even more amazing. The only person who ran faster than Quincy that day in the preliminaries was Quincy Hall, who would go on to win the Olympic gold medal. A high school student was running times that only Olympic gold medalists could beat. Quincy made it to the finals. He finished 6th with a time of 44.94 seconds. That wasn't fast enough to make the individual Olympic team. But the coaches noticed something. This kid was special. So they added him to the 4x400 relay pool. Just like that, Quincy Wilson became the youngest male track athlete ever to make a U.S. Olympic team. But wait, before heading to Paris for the Olympics, Quincy had one more race. In July, he competed at the Holloway Pro Classic in Florida. This was against professional runners, no high school kids, just pros. The race came down to the wire. Quincy was going head-to-head with Bryce Deadman, an Olympic athlete. They crossed the finish line almost together. Quincy won with 44.20 seconds. Deadman got 44.23 seconds. Only 0.03 seconds separated them. Quincy had just beaten a professional Olympic athlete and set another world record. He was now the 6th fastest 400-meter runner in the entire world for 2024, faster than Michael Norman, one of America's best sprinters. The only American faster than him was Quincy Hall, the world leader. Let's put this in perspective. Quincy was still in high school. He couldn't even vote yet, but he was ranked ahead of Olympic athletes and professional runners who trained full-time. Then came the Paris Olympics in August 2024.